world where technology is supposed to make your life easier, and just to realize that the thing that you own ends up owning you ultimately.
We had the idea of doing a drawing game and came up with this idea of a little boy and his wonderful imagination.
We wanted to do a very specific look for the drawing, a mix of realistic and yet stylized.
I'd say that Monument Valley is a game about perception and beauty.
I wanted to put architecture in sort of a prominent role.
It's basically a real-time strategy game set in a futuristic city where you control 4 agents who have to move through and take control of a city.
Good morning. So, one of the most important tasks of being CEO and of Unity is to go out there and spend time with you and talk to you and listen to you and learn about your challenges and needs and problems, and to bring that back to the team and to inspire Unity to be the very best that it can, and to inspire us to do the very best we can to support you in your work and your careers. And you know, when we started out creating Unity, we had to pick a name. We had an engine. It was very raw, and we picked the name Unity because we saw that it would be a software platform to bring a lot of media together. So we would bring 3D models, animation, scripts, audio, video, physics, lighting effects, all these things together into one whole. And so Unity seems like an apt name. We also dreamt of being able to unite the teams, the different skill sets on the teams, to bring artists, programmers, game designers, producers, audio developers together and create kind of a framework for them to huddle over and work together. Now, what we had never dreamt of at all was how this would go so much further and kind of unite an entire industry and help studios work with publishers and teams work with other teams, help people develop their careers and get hired by studios and move around and build a skill set that is incredibly transferable and to create a kind of a unified language for the industry. And it's been pretty overwhelming to see that happening. And that's really why it's so incredibly wonderful to be able to welcome 1,500 of you to Unite 2014 in Seattle here. We're sold out, and it's a lot of people. So I want to welcome you. We have a couple of hours ahead of us. There's a lot of stuff we want to show you, a lot of stuff we've been working on in the labs. There's also some new things we want to tell you about. And we'll get there. But as often, it's good before diving into sort of, the reality and the near future and all these things, to step back and just, take a little bit of a stock of where we are. So allow me to do that for a second. This community, when we started sort of being able to count it, that's only really 3 years ago, in 2011, and we saw that 128,000 people were using Unity on a monthly basis. It's a lot of people. So just 3 years later, that number has grown and grown and grown. And at this point, we've seen over 600,000 people use Unity in a month, per month, right? These are you guys, your friends, people like you, all over the world, sitting down and creating things. And it's, just mind-blowing to think about. Also, with 1,500 people here in the room, it means that we'd have to have 400 rooms like this to host all these people. There's also people watching us live, I believe, on the internet, if the stream is working. So hope you enjoy that too. It doesn't work every year. So bit of luck. And we live against a backdrop of a very complicated industry, right? There's a lot of platforms, a lot of things moving, new things coming, things going from small to big. And it's such a rich industry with so many opportunities and strange challenges, strange and wonderful challenges. It's been exciting to become part of that industry and to be able to help you guys move freely and flexibly and fast and efficiently and between these platforms and grasp the opportunities as they arise. And the industry we're in is really fucking big. Do they beep that? Sorry. I'll try to limit that in the future. It's very big, right? And it's also growing really, really fast. I mean, for an industry this size, growing at double-digit rates every year, that's actually rare. And when things are growing, it creates a lot of opportunities, where things are opening up for little teams to, grasp on and grow and build companies and studios and games and careers and all these things. This is the overall picture. If you then look at mobile, which is, in some ways, a very important part of what we do, it's even much more radically, rapidly growing. And of course, a lot of you are taking that opportunity, and it's really mind-blowing to watch. Also, we tried to look at some trends. We got some reports from McKinsey and guys like that, and one of the things that we've seen is that, games that are created with third-party technology, people are using much more third-party technology now than ever before, so that's sort of growing very rapidly. And almost every second one of these games is built with Unity. It's pretty crazy. Most of the other 50% is some sort of legacy 2D tools of various kind. And when we go out and survey developers, almost every second mobile developer is using Unity, and actually in some other categories it's much more than that. So that's exciting. When we then look at the audience that you guys are entertaining and giving products to and connecting with, it's really big. So in the data we've seen 500 million desktop installs of Unity games. That's Windows, it's Mac OS, it's Linux, and it's the web. So a lot of people. And when you look at mobile, it's even much crazier. So we've measured 8.7 billion app installs of apps that you've created. Yeah. And by the way, and I should interject, that's only the data that you voluntarily share with us. If you built mobile apps, you know that there's a checkbox in the build settings. Please enable it, because it's so interesting for us to be able to see that stuff. And a lot of you don't, and that's fine, that's your decision. It's entirely voluntary. So this is only the stuff that you are sharing with us. We know it's a lot more. I don't know how much more, I'm not even going to guess, but it's a lot. I mean, it's a big world, and it's a big industry, and there's so many exciting things happening with it. All that, though, creates a lot of responsibility for us, frankly. For you guys having allowed us to become kind of a important, enmeshed part of your lives, it puts a lot of burden on our shoulders. And of course, we try our very best to fulfill that. So, one of the really big responsibilities we have is to lean in and make sure that we're slightly ahead of the curve with technology, with what's coming, so that we're ready with solutions when you need them. We don't always succeed, but we really try. So one of the things, it all becomes like this kind of rocket science-y technology that we have to kind of build and maintain and push forward to get anywhere. So one of the things we've been doing recently, I'll go through a few, but these are just some highlights. In the spring we started working on Apple's Metal, the low latency iOS rendering layer. It's really fantastic technology. I can't say too much about it yet, but it shows great promise and huge kind of steps forward in rendering on iOS. We're very close with it now to you guys to be able to give it to you guys, and yeah, well, in the early testing we've seen it's showing a lot of promise. Another thing that's been happening is that Intel, which traditionally has not had a big stake in mobile, actually a very small stake in mobile, their x86 mobile chips have been getting really good. So we went and we partnered with Intel, worked very closely with them to make sure that the games you're building for mobile will run really well on their chips as these devices get more prevalent. They're already out there, but we expect a lot of growth in this in the next couple of years. Quite interesting work, and yeah, we of course, to you, it's just another chip. It should just work. That's our responsibility, right? Mostly works for us. If you look sort of around the ecosystem, there's so many interesting things growing. Actually, looking back just at the PC ecosystem, it's flourishing like never before. And what is really exciting about it is that a lot of you guys that actually grew up with Unity on mobile are kind of taking your skills back to PC. Broadly speaking, and there's a lot of really interesting innovation, experimentation going on. Games like Rust and Endless Space and so on that really kind of push boundaries in different ways. This is very interesting to be part of. New platforms like Oculus that so many of you have adopted. Palmer Luckey told us recently that almost all the games built for Oculus are based on Unity. I think he said 90%. I'm sure that can fluctuate a bit, but it's really a lot, which is, yeah, it's fantastic. We're just waiting for the consumer kits, right? We need this to be out there in the millions and then tens of millions, but that's almost certainly going to happen. And a lot of those games will be created by you guys. And of course, on console, we also did this. We went really deep with all the console companies, working very closely with them to make sure that Unity is really well supported. In many cases, you can get completely free licenses to build your games for these platforms. And we're being told that the share of Unity games in production vary between some double digits and a lot. It's still a sort of secretive world, honestly. But from what we see, it's opening up dramatically, and there's a lot of really interesting things that are coming out to console that we couldn't have imagined just a few years ago. So again, something we're very excited and proud to be part of, and to be able to provide you with these tools is fantastic. We also started thinking about smart TVs. We've actually been experimenting and exploring that for a while. But recently, we went out and partnered with Samsung to work on their smart TVs to make sure that the games you are building can go to their TVs. There's an indecent number of TVs being sold, and more and more of them are connected, and we expect this to be an interesting gaming platform in the future. So want to be ready for you and make sure that that's easy and something you can capture sort of when the time is right for you. We've been working with Google to make sure that the Android apps you build can work on their Android TV set-top boxes, and they're here like most of the other companies, but they're here with like Android TV set-top box dev kits for all of you who are in the room. So there will be instructions on how to get them later. I just lost a bet there. It's pretty cool, actually. Taking all this technology, all these platforms, and really working hard to make it easy for you is something we're very proud of, and kind of a core tenet of what we've been doing always. And there's some pretty wild examples of that. So I'll just show you a couple. You might have come across some of these games. So the team Colorblind, very good friends of ours. They're working on the Aztez game. It's looking fantastic. It's 2 people, right? They're targeting 7 different platforms, including a number of consoles. They have more dev kits, they say, than employees, which isn't actually that hard when you have 2 people. But but seriously, like you go a few years back, a 20-person company would hesitate to try to take a game to 7 platforms. I don't know how often that's been done even. That's 20 people. Here's 2. It's just mind-blowing efficiency. You get other guys like these guys that are creating Forma 8. Also 2 people, also taking their very beautiful, very stylish game to I think it's also 7 platforms. It's just unthinkable and fantastic, right? And beautiful. There's more examples beyond Gravity. Also, small team being brought to a lot of different platforms. The Quibu guys are very creative and building, this beautiful stuff. It's also so nice how different the games look, that it's not all the same. It makes us happy. But there's different stories too. These guys, also very, very skilled game developers. Just taking this to, I can't remember. I think it's 5 different platforms, including consoles. And yeah, well, I'm looking forward to playing it. Of course, it's really beautiful. Now, there's sort of very different stories. Plague Inc., one of my favorite games, was created originally not with Unity, taken to iOS and Android, I think, but then is being rebuilt with Unity to target, I think, 5 platforms, including Xbox One, I think. Again, very small team, incredible efficiency, and I'm looking forward to playing it myself. And of course, this game, this is different again. It's coming from XNA, so we're sort of close in that ecosystem. Really, really beautiful game, but now being brought to Unity so as to target many more platforms. It's just something that some years ago people would talk about going to multiple platforms, so they would target sort of Windows and Macintosh or something, like things that are very similar. But now we see games really kind of spreading out and going fast to platforms. And of course, some of the work we're doing, or a lot of the work we're doing, is to make that easier. Now, if you just go broader, you can just see so many different things. These are just screenshots of some of our favorite games built with Unity that are just impressive. It's so different. That's the coolest thing. Also, a lot of people who are building things with Unity are not building games, but building other things. I know many of you in the room are doing that. And what's really cool is it creates this kind of liquidity, between the games industry and other industries. People will move around, people will pick different jobs and do different things at different times of their lives. And it's very diverse, it's very interesting. You'll see some things around here at the conference, and it's so kind of rich, is the word. Now, let's see. The sort of the core of what we've done around the technology has always been focusing on a community, which is why we run these conferences, which is why we're out here. But the pinnacle of our community is the asset store, of course. And these, there's this ridiculously large treasure trove of assets to dip into. When we built it a number of years ago, we knew it would be fantastic. Well, we thought so. And we really thought it would transform the way you work with Unity. And many of you have told us that that's exactly what's happened. It also helps a lot of people make money without making games. Really a lot, actually, which is also really cool. But earlier this year, I started sort of trying to understand, sure, it's really cool, but how much time does it actually save you guys? Can we calculate that? And I scribbled on some napkins, and I thought about it, and I came up with an equation. So we can look at our stats, and we can see that in the next year, there's 7.2 million downloads from the asset store. Some of these things, and you know what's in there, some of these things will save you days or weeks. In fact, some of them save you kind of, a whole 2-year education learning something before you can do it. But if you just assume one single day of saved effort per downloaded asset from the asset store, just a day, that's, I think, incredibly conservative. And you assume an average, fully loaded, blah, 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 industry salary of $50,000, and you divide that by the working days in a year, you actually get that you guys are saving each other $1.4 billion of kind of invested effort by using the asset store, which is just absolutely mind-blowing. Yeah. And of course, thanks to the people actually filling it with content, I think we're up to 13,000, 14,000 packages, and it's just so good. It's outrageous. It really is. Now, what does this all mean, and where are we trying to go with this? So, as you may remember, we started out with a simple tenet. We wanted to democratize game development, make it so that more people could build better games than ever before. And we thought a lot about this question all these years, and we worked really hard because it's a very meaningful mission for us. We like you guys and want to help you. But we realized some things along the way. We mentioned some of this before, and that is that we have to be more than an engine, and that is because your problems don't end with creating a game. They end never. they end. No, it's true. True story. Been there, done that. So once you created a game, you have a number of other challenges, right? And we sort of, when we think about it, we boil it down to two things. I mean, first you have to create your game, and then you have to take your game and you have to connect it with an audience. There's a lot of sub-problems to these. This is not simple. Like, creating, you need to be, made a great game, good performance. It has to be stable. It has to work on the platforms you want it to work on. It has to be cost-effective to build, and all these things. And we worked on that for quite many years, and we're pretty good at helping you with that. The other problem is how to connect with an audience. Can I find players? Can I monetize them? Can I understand what they're doing? And things like that. And that's something we really started exploring more recently. Because we really come to this conclusion that we have to be sort of an end-to-end development platform. It doesn't mean we have to do everything, but we have to question, which pieces can we address with technology to make them better, you might say. So we'll talk about that later. There's a few things we want to show you. But before that, of course, I promised you, I think, that we would show you some technology. And Joachim and Lucas are going to do that. I'm really excited to see it myself. And I think we'll start with Lucas. Lucas?
job, man. Yeah. Welcome, everyone. This section of the keynote is going to contain a bunch of updates from the development team, what we've been working on in the past and what you can expect to come out in the future. And let's start by taking a look at what we've been doing this year. One of the goals that we set for ourselves this year is that we wanted to become better at making sure that the problems and the bugs that we fix in Unity, that we make sure that we fix the ones that actually matter the most to you guys. And the other thing we set out to do is make sure that when we do that, we make sure we get those fixes out into your hands at a much faster rate than our traditional 2, 3, 4-ish month release cycle. So in order to do that, quite a lot of stuff needed to change. And one of the things we did is that we created this, issuetracker.unity3d.com. This is an open database of all the bugs that we have that we know about. It's the same database that we look in if we're in the office. The only bugs that we filter out are the ones that have sensitive information, like customer projects that you obviously don't want the whole world to see. Okay, so we made it so that everyone here and everyone in the world can look at all our dirty laundry and see all the problems that are known problems. And the other thing we did is we made it so that you can also vote on these. So we made a way for you to tell us, like, hey, this specific problem here, this is one that is really annoying for me. Please fix this one. Okay, so now we were in a situation where we had a much better understanding of which were actually the highest priority bugs to fix. Now, the second part of that is when we fix them, how do we actually get them into your hands in a timely manner? And what we started to do is, actually, this is the issue tracker. Notice how, I was lucky and all the top ones were actually green. That means we fixed them. So what we started doing was every week we do a bug fix release. Every single week, we go through the issue tracker and we look at all the other channels that we use to communicate with customers. We look at the bugs that we can fix this week and that we know that people care about, and then we try to ship them to you in that same week. We've been very happy with this process so far. We've been doing 15 of them. We've been calling them patch releases, and all combined, I think they've fixed about 223 bugs that we knew about. So with all these things combined together, we hope we are in a position much more, in a much better position where the whole flow between, a user finding a problem, letting us know, us fixing it, and then having the fix in the hand of the customer, that we can have that cycle be much shorter than it has been in the past. Okay, so enough looking at the past. Let's take a look at the future. Unity 4.6. It has this UI feature that I know some people have been asking for for a while. And let me actually start by showing a project from one of the customers in our beta program. It's a game called Seabird, and it's made by a studio called Hand Circus in London, and it's a really cute sort of like cartoony game. I have it open in my editor here. And these guys, they were in the beta program, and they chose to build their whole game's UI using the new UI system. I can talk to this guy here. And, oh, look there, there's my quest log that pops up. There's all sorts of dynamic UI that comes here. I think I need to go here and go into this cave. I actually don't know what a root remover is, but I got it. And it's a new button that came up here. Oh, let me talk to this guy again. Actually, this game is really huge and has like you can go on the boat and go to all these islands and all these environments. But, oh, look at that. I like stars. Okay, so as you can see, this game has quite a bit of, a new quest. This game has quite a bit of UI functionality. Let me do this last thing right here. Whoop. Okay, well, I guess you get the idea like that. Okay, so let me show you a few more UI things that they have. Like they have an inventory, which is a scroll list over here. There is these buttons pop up real nicely. You have these tabs. There's all sorts of like list items. here. There's list items like that. So let's take a look at how this is actually done. Let me remove some stuff that is in the way. All right, so when we decided to make this UI system again and again and again, at some point you start to get a good idea of what you actually want to do. And one of the things that we wanted to do with the UI system is make sure that it's very easy to use, that it's very easy to extend, and that in both those cases it's very powerful and very, 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 very fast at runtime. So one of the core components of the new UI system is called the rect transform. I have it over here. You can see it has like position, Y, width, height. And the job of the rect transform is allow you guys to specify where you want a certain UI element to be in your canvas. You can, I could change the values here manually, or I can select the new 2D tool here and get all sorts of nice, sexy UI to do this configuration of the rect transform. Note there's like this sexy snapping that's going on to help you, place it exactly where you want. So one of the jobs of the rect transform is to allow people to tell it where a certain UI element should go. And the other job of the rect transform is actually to tell us, or to tell the UI system, how this element should behave if its environment changes. For instance, let's take a look. Let's minimize that and go to the scene. Let's take a look here. What happens if I make this thing bigger? Notice that the icon of the inventory, the bag, actually looks pretty good. But you see that this text thing over there, it doesn't stay in the box that that so clearly looks like it should stay in. So let's bring this back, and I'll go in here and I'll find the label. And the label also has a rect transform. And the rect transform has this anchoring feature. And we have all sorts of presets here that have some common settings, like I want this thing to stick in the left bottom or into the right bottom or somewhere else. But these are only presets, and you actually have very fine-grained, narrow, fine-grained control over how you want this anchoring to happen. And we also have this UI widget here, which I've been told the UI team internally is actually calling the power flower, which I kind of like, so maybe we can all make that stick. Well, let's see. And you can see that this power flower indicates that this text element, that it will try to stay in the same position relative to the center of this background image. But in this case, that's actually not what we want. We want it to actually, try to stay at the same place as this darker area where clearly the text should go. So I'm just going to grab this bottom of the power flower here, and I'm going to grab the top. I could probably do that in one go, but I don't know how yet. It's a bit new for me as well. I'll go back to the main button, and if I now drag it around, you can see that the inventory text is actually nicely in the area where I want it. Okay, so that's one part of the UI system. The rect transform, it allows you to specify where something should go and how it should behave if its environment changes. The second part I want to talk about is how to actually draw stuff on the screen. So we have two built-in components that will let you draw stuff to the screen. One of them is an image component that we have over here. It contains a source image and a color. Notice I can just take this source image here and just make it draw something else. No, but I don't want that. So I'm going to, where was it? Oh no. Very top? Oh no, this is a big thing. You know what about this one? It has a tint color that I can select and change the color of it. So that's the image component. And then the other component that we have that allows you to draw things is the text component. Notice it's over here. And this text is rendered in real time, so now it says inventory. I can just make this say Unite 2014, and it will say that. So having these separate components for all your images and all your text is very comfortable for when you're authoring. But of course, you want to make sure that when this actually runs at runtime, you're not going to pay like a single draw call cost for each of these separate components. So what Unity does is that if something in the canvas changes, or like in the UI world changes, we will look at all these different images and text components, and you can actually make your own components that can draw stuff as well. It will go through all of them and find the best combination of things that share materials or share textures and group them in a way that they can be batched in the smallest amount of draw calls possible. So for a UI like this, I think you're looking at roughly 2, maybe 3, maybe 4 draw calls to draw a UI like this. And of course, that's important because one of the goals of the UI system was to make sure that whatever you want to do with it, that it's really, really fast. Okay, so the third part of the UI system that I want to spend some time with is the part that actually provides for some interactivity. So we have widgets, like buttons, toggles, sliders, scroll areas, lists, horizontal layout groups, vertical layout groups. But for this demo, I'm just going to take a look at a relatively simple button. So we have the button component here on the same game object that also had the image component. And you can set this button up in different ways. You can say that you want to use sprite swap to use, to model the different mouse over states. You can use mechanism animation, and this specific one, this has been configured to use color tint. So then you can specify 4 different color tints that you want to use for each of the different hover states, and that color tint actually affects this color on the image over there. The good thing about that is because internally we actually use vertex colors to do that tinting, is that if you give something a different color through a mouse over, that doesn't actually break the batch. So you could have 3 red things, 3 blue things, and we can still draw them in a single draw call. Okay, so that's a bit of an overview of how this specific game uses the UI feature. And of course, I know that the big question is, you guys have been talking about it for so long. Can we get it? Is it finally done? And I'm happy to say that today, Unity 4.6 is going in open beta, and you can download it at this URL, download it, play around with it, and go nuts. I should also say that the whole team that actually built the UI feature is here at the conference. There's several presentations that they'll have throughout the next 3 days. So if you're interested in UI, please make sure to attend them. And they're also spending a lot of time in the hands-on labs. Actually, our whole engineering team, we brought a lot of people from our engineering team, and most of them are spending a lot of time in the hands-on labs. It's basically a room where they sit waiting for you to come to them to help, to ask for advice on a whole project or on a very specific thing. The whole UI team is there as well, so go download the beta, play around with it, and if there's something that's hard to understand or that's unclear, come and find us. The other thing about Unity 4.6 that we're going to do is that we're going to make it open source. The UI feature. Oops, did I say whole Unity 4.6? I didn't mean that. I meant UI. So what does it mean when I say open source? It means that we will release the source code of the UI feature, all of this which is written in C#. We will release it under the MIT license. So that means that everyone can read the code, everyone is allowed to change the code, everyone is allowed to use those changes in the projects that you want to ship. You could share those changes with anyone you want, and you can also work with us in case the changes make sense for more people than just you. Work with us to try to get these changes included in an upcoming version of Unity. Okay, I hope we didn't kill the Wi-Fi for the whole conference for the rest of the day. I'm sorry if we did. All right, so that is Unity 4.6. We're going to spend some time looking at some of the stuff that's coming in Unity 5.0. And for that, I'm going to ask Joachim Ante to come on stage and show us some of the graphics features that we've been working on in Unity 5. Have fun? Good idea.
Thank you. So, Unity 5 is a massive release. We have a lot of new features. We have a lot of optimizations, improvements to existing systems. But one thing that I want to dive a little bit into is graphics in Unity 5. And so, the first thing, when you open Unity 5, is that you will notice we have a default skybox. There's a light automatically created for you, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to assemble a scene and show you really how easy it is to, from scratch, create really nice looking scenes in Unity 5. because this is what we really spent a lot of time focusing on. We wanted to make it really simple to create beautiful scenes in Unity. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to create a plane here. And I'm going to mark it static so that our real-time GI works on it. OK, great. I'm going to find some artwork that we've made before. And over here, I have this house. Sorry, that was the wrong house, actually. I meant this one, of course. This guy. So here we have our house, and I'm just going to snap that to the ground. And you notice this is a default scene. I simply place a plane, I place this house, and we have already out of the box really decent looking lighting on this house. So there's a couple of things that contribute to this. First of all, there's of course a directional light lighting up the house from the front. And that's very nice. Also, we have skylighting. So basically, the sky and the color of the sky greatly affects how the scene and all the objects in it look. And everything that we do is consistent with the sky and the directional light. So the first thing I want to show you is how does it look when we only have skylighting, just so we really understand how this actually works. So you can see here the plane is blue. And the reason for that is, of course, because our sky from the top, it's mostly bluish. So that's why the skylighting is blue, and the house also has some kind of bluish tint from the skylight. And of course, you see there's a little bit of a fade here. There's ambient occlusion going on, so the lighting nicely fades out, and it looks all, it has a really good basic lighting already, just from the sky. So what we're going to do now is we're going to go to the light mapping window, and we're just going to assign a different skybox. So we're going to take the sunset skybox, and you can see here that automatically changes the lighting that comes from the skybox. So now it's no longer bluish, but mostly a bit gray, brownish, reddish. Okay. Now, we can also change the exposure here. So as we increase this skybox, and it's an HDR skybox, we can see just the lighting from the skybox can really light up our scene without even having any direct lights or specialized lights in our scene at all. So we can tweak these things, we can change the rotation, so that's all cool. And everything updates live. When you change a skybox, Unity automatically sees that it has changed, and it will update the skybox live. This is also something you can do in real time. In your game, you can change your skybox while the game is running, and the lighting of all the objects in your scene changes automatically. It's pretty amazing, I think. So what we're going to do is I'm going to turn down the exposure on the skylight. So now what we're going to look at is the lighting that comes from the directional light. Okay, so this is only the lighting that comes from the directional light. We have a nice shadow, that's cool, but what is new in Unity 5 is that every light has a bounce intensity. And that is basically, that is our real-time GI system where we can simply change how much of this light should come from bounce light. So we can increase it. So now we can really bring in the bounce light. So you can see when we turn it off, let's say we increase the intensity a little bit, you can see the area where there's a shadow, it is completely black. But when we start increasing the bounce intensity, then that area especially lights up. And of course, this is completely real time. You can do this on a PC. You can do it even on a mobile device. On a high-end mobile device, you can use real-time GI. You can change all your lights. You move your light automatically. The real-time GI will update, and everything will look consistent. The second effect is, of course, when we start creating materials. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new material, like this. and I'm going to drag this onto the floor. All right, now we can start tweaking that material. And what you will see is that when I change the color of the plane, of course, automatically, because when a light hits a surface, the diffuse color or the albedo color is bounced off it. And as I now change the color of this surface, the bounce light really immediately affects the house. And again, everything looks consistent. Everything is real time. You can change the albedo colors of your objects in real time in your game, and everything will consistently update. Okay, so that's great. Now, another thing that we spent a lot of time on is reflection, because every surface in this world has some form of reflectivity, some more than others. So I want to show you a little bit about that. And the technique we used for this is we have a system called reflection probes in Unity 5. So what you do is you create a reflection probe like this, and we're just going to place it in front of the house. And now we're going to make this a little bit bigger so that all the objects in it are affected by it. Great. Make this a bit bigger as well. Okay, very well. And actually, to make things look good, we're going to fade in the sky again. Okay, so put this in again. We'll tweak the directional light to not be so intense because, of course, the skylight, they work together. So now we don't need all that intensity. Okay, 1.5 maybe. So we have a good look here. Great. And now we're going to play a bit with the new standard shader. The new standard shader, it's a physically based material. And what does that mean? So all the values that you can input into this physically based shader are good values. It's very easy with the old Unity, it's very easy to break the materials because they don't make physical sense. But with this standard shader, you can represent any surface easily. You can make anything from a metallic surface to plastic, to metal, to cloth. All can be represented with the same shader and the same UI. All you have to do is assign a diffuse texture, a specular texture, and a normal map. And we have all these extra slots here that you can see: diffuse, specular, normal map, height map, occlusion map, emission map. It makes it very easy to play with and understand the lighting and then author textures for it. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to assign a texture to it. So I have this mud texture here. So that's already pretty nice. We have a diffuse texture here, great. And the second thing is we're going to add a normal map. So we're going to take this one. And now from the light, we have some really nice bump maps here. That's great. And you can see here, there's these puddles. And what we want to do is now we're going to play a bit around with what happens when we increase the specularity. So, of course, best when you have specular, you always want to look at the sun because that looks pretty. So we're just going to increase the specularity here. So this is very specular now, and it affects the whole surface. And also you have the smoothness value. So that basically means on the left, it's a very rough surface, and you can't really see any shapes. But when we move it all the way to the right, then it is really reflecting the environment. And it takes the reflectivity from the probe that we have placed previously. So we can see here in some sort of shape, because there's, of course, a lot of normal mapping going on. We can see the house, we can see the sky being reflected, and so on. So we're going to tweak that down a little bit. And now you can also see here the really nice specular highlight from the directional light and so on. So you just get this really nice next-gen shiny look. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to assign a dedicated specular map. And in this specular map, now all these maps, they kind of work together. So you can see here, there's these puddles, and on these puddles, we have very high specularity. So there you can really see these reflections shining up, and when the when the highlight from when the directional highlight kicks in, you can see this the sun really kicking in the specular reflection of the puddle and so on. And the other areas, they are very diffuse and thus are not much affected by it. So that's really great. Okay. Now we have our scene. We have placed some materials. With the physically materials, it's really a very deep thing that you can change so many parameters. You can tweak anything real time, and there's a lot to explore. But what we're going to do next is think about what do we do when we want to get this game onto mobile. Now there are two options. Maybe you have a high-end device that you want to target. In that case, you can actually use the real-time GI completely, and you can have a directional light, have your shadows running, and also have your real-time GI. So as you change the skybox, as you change the directional light, everything will live update. And this is feasible on really high-end mobile devices today. But what do you do if you want to target low-end mobile devices? And what we do in that case is we simply we take a look at the light, and over here we have a couple of light mapping modes. And we can select from them, and one of them is, for example, static GI. And what now happens is that Unity in the background is baking your light maps. And in fact, maybe this is something you noticed, or maybe you didn't, but during all this demo, I didn't hit any bake buttons at all, because Unity automatically figures out what exactly has changed in your scene, and it rebakes the things that need to be redone. So you don't need to worry anymore about having to rebake the lighting or clicking all these buttons or figuring things out. Everything just out of the box works correctly. And now, in fact, while I was talking and didn't click the bake button, we have our light map baked. So here's our light map. Looks cool with all really nice default out-of-the-box settings. And now when I change the light direction, you can see I still get the real-time preview. So as soon as we change the light, we give you this preview with the shadow and real-time GI system. And now we can tweak the exact position where we want our shadow to go. And I let go of it. And again, it's computing the things that have changed. And going, and in a second, it will be done. And then it will switch to the light map. And there it is. All right. Now, the last part, when you create this lighting is, of course, what do you do about dynamic objects? The plane and the house, in this case, they were marked static, and thus they can bounce lighting off themselves. And dynamic objects, they can receive the lighting. And the way we do that, I'm going to show you that, is I'm just going to place these barrels here. And when I just place them, they look a little bit out of place. They're a little bit dark. They're in the light here, but they're too dark. So what I do is I create a light probe group. And as soon as I do that, you can see in the background we're baking all the things that have changed. Everything works automatically. You just move these things. We duplicate this a couple times and move it over here. So now we have defined all these light probes. So what this does is basically we have these light probes here, and it captures the lighting at these points. And when we then move objects around in the world, it picks the closest probe and interpolates between it, and then the lighting will be picked up from that. So by doing that, these barrels, even though there's only a static light map and there's no direct light actually being used at runtime, so it's very cheap, even though we do that, when we move the barrels into the shadow here, they dim down, and as they move into the light, they light up. So everything looks consistent and works really, really nicely. So that's a small demo of how easy it is to create lighting in Unity 5 and to tweak with things, play with things, and just get this immediate feedback for all your parameters. Thank you. So the next thing we're going to do is I want to show you a little bit larger scene that we have been working on, so we can see that this actually really works on some big stuff as well. So it's loading up. So here we have created basically this this big Viking village with the same assets that we have just looked at, and I'm just going to show you that a bit. So we have this Viking village with a lot of objects in it. Everything is using the same standard shader. It uses only a single shader in this demo, all with a physically based shading. We have these, like these barrels with the nice specular highlights on the metal. Again, we have our puddles here where we have really nice specular highlights when we look into the sun. And of course, we can also change the real-time lighting at runtime. So now we're changing the shadows and the skybox changes, and that affects how the lighting of the entire scene looks. And we have all these different materials here. I think this part, I really like this really nice surface here with the Viking ship. I think it's really pretty. So yeah, that's lighting in a bigger scene, running real time. All of these shaders, they have been very, very well optimized. The standard shader, it also works well on mobile. We've made an optimized version where it doesn't have the same graphical fidelity, but it runs fast enough on today's mobile hardware. Okay, so that's great. And now I want to show you a couple of other demos that just some artists on the Alpha List have created and that they have shared with us. So this is one artist, and he made a demo with a car. And he basically took the universal or the standard shader core that we have built on with our physically based shading and tweaked it to make a car shader. And we can see here, when we change the lighting, we have a couple of different skyboxes. The lighting really accurately is reflected on all these objects. We have these really nice highlights, and everything just matches really well. And yeah, all of this out of the box. Also, he made some simple controls to just change the colors of this car, and it just, yeah, everything just looks consistently and really good out of the box. So it's very easy to use. All right. And the last graphics demo that I want to show you is a company in France. And what they have done is they have built a scanner hardware for humans. So when you work with physically based materials, very often you work with scanned data. But of course, you can also paint it yourself. But in this case, it scans the mesh, generates a mesh for you. It generates all the textures, and it's extremely detailed. And they have used the universal shader to create a specialized skin shader for all this data that they generate. So we can see here in the different lighting conditions, everything looks really nice. There's some skylight and some direct lighting happening here, and everything just looks really beautiful, beautifully rendered. So all these things, they can of course change at runtime, and everything updates correctly. Okay, so this was a demo of some of the graphics features in Unity 5. And if you want to learn more about this, there's a talk right after this about physically based shading that Ray, one of the guys who has been working on it, and one of our technical artists, Erland, is giving. And it's really good for you to see that, because it gives you a good understanding of how to work with physically based materials, because it's a different way of working. with physically based materials than with the old shaders. And secondly, there's also a talk about the real-time GI system, Enlighten, that is also later today, I believe, at 13 o'clock or so. Look it up in your schedule. But these are really talks. If you're interested in the graphics side of Unity, I highly recommend them. So with that, I'm going to ask Lucas back on stage, and he's going to give us some more, show us some more stuff about Unity 5. Thank you.
Oh, he always gets to demo all this shiny stuff. It's not fair. Okay, so Unity 5, as you can see, it just takes the graphics fidelity that you can achieve with Unity to a different level, but even more importantly, the workflows that you guys need to go through to achieve that fidelity is also just way, way, way improved. Like the iteration times on your light maps, all that sort of stuff, like the art workflow is just much, much, much better. Okay, so there's a lot more stuff than only shiny graphics features. And let's talk about a few of them. One of them that I'm personally very excited about is IL2CPP. So when you guys create content in Unity, you create the code in C#. Unfortunately, the devices that run your games and your projects, they don't have like a C# processor. They have normal CPUs, and they don't run C#. You need to give them machine code. So somehow you need to go, we need to make sure that your C# code will run on this device. And IL2CPP is our solution for that for the future, where we take your C# code, we actually turn it into C++ code, and then we compile that with C++ compilers to native code so that it can be as fast as possible. IL2CPP has had two design goals from the start. One of them is raw performance. We want it to be really, really fast. And in order to gauge for ourselves how we're doing with that, we actually created a benchmark, and we created a Unity project that generates Mandelbrot like that. I hope I say that right. It's a script like this. It's a small, it's a small thing just to make a project that's very script heavy. And we've benchmarked it against some of our C# runtime options. And I actually went back to the IL2CPP guys for a few times because I thought, like, no, this can't be true, is it? But it looks like it's really true. And if you look at this graph, there's a few really interesting things about it. One is that the IL2CPP generated version from your C# script, it actually performs as fast as a handwritten C++ Mandelbrot implementation. And to us, that is just amazing, because it means that you guys get the power and flexibility and safety of a language like C# and all the available libraries that are out there, but you get the raw performance of C++. So that is to us an ideal mix. There's also another interesting tidbit of information in this graph. If you look, like, if we take the C# code and we turn it into C++, and then we turn that C++ into JavaScript, and then we run that JavaScript in Firefox, you would think, because this is so many steps, and because JavaScript is this thing that makes your colors of your buttons on your website change when you move your mouse over it, you would, like, if someone were to have told me this a few years ago, I would have laughed them in their face. But how wrong was I? How wrong was I? Because as you see, the performance improvements that browser vendors have been achieving over the last year in pure JavaScript performance is getting scarily close to native code. Scarily code. Some days I think about this and I still don't understand how. But it's a strange world we live in, and we have to deal with it. At least I try. And you can see that we're also a fair bit faster than the mono runtime that we use in Unity 4. Okay, so the other big design goal of IL2CPP is extreme portability. We know that many of you guys here in the room are here in the room and chose to work with Unity because Unity allows you to go to so many different platforms. So it's very important for us to make sure that if a popular platform emerges in the future, that we are able to let you take your games and your content to that platform. And actually, one of these very challenging platforms is actually WebGL. Because if you want to run WebGL in a browser, you have to have all your code in JavaScript if you don't want to have a plugin. So it means that all Unity C++ code, because Unity itself is written in C++, all that C++ code needs to be converted into JavaScript. All your C# code needs to first be turned into C++ code, then into JavaScript. We need to merge that together and then run. I mean, I've been wrong before, but it's my gut feeling that when we manage to ship your games on WebGL, we can make it run on everything they're going to throw at us at the future. So let me show you a bit of an update on the status of our WebGL exporter. So what we have here is a game from a company called Nivel. It's called Prime World Defenders. Let me get this into full screen. Notice that there is such a thing as full screen in non-plugin web these days. I click allow. Can we get a bit of audio on this? Yeah.
Bring the defenses forward.
So this is a tower defense game. I'm very embarrassed to say that someone had to actually explain me how you play these games. But I think I got it now. I think I got it. I'll be good. Okay, so you can drag around, you can scroll, and the performance of this game is actually surprisingly well. Like on this, I mean, this is a kick-ass machine, but here it runs easily on 60 FPS. On my laptop, it runs on 60 FPS. And that's even including things like these skinned characters over here, because skinning is actually like a notoriously hard thing to do for a language like JavaScript that doesn't have SIMD support. But even all that said, the performance is surprisingly well. And you can also see, that over the last year, pure HTML features have really gotten to a point where it can do stuff that was previously only possible with our web player. Things like full screen, mouse scroll, right click, all the different buttons of your mouse working. So that's looking really good. This is using IL2CPP. Unity 5.0 is the first release where we will ship IL2CPP as it will power the WebGL exporter. And throughout the Unity 5X cycle, we will continue to roll out IL2CPP to more and more platforms. So a few more things to note about WebGL. If you've been paying close attention to our blog lately, you might have noticed that we made the decision to make the WebGL exporter free for everyone. So it doesn't matter if you're on a free license or on a pro license. When we ship Unity 5, everyone will be able to download it, and everyone will have this amazing content creation tool at their hands to create interactive 3D content for the open web. It's really exciting. OK, so there's more things in Unity 5. Let's talk about a few of them. Audio. We actually completely rewrote the audio system, from the importer to the playback mechanisms to an audio mixer that gives you very fine control over how all the sound comes back into the mix. This is actually a screenshot of the mixer. You have endless sliders and tweakers and buttons to make it sound exactly the way you want it. I'm pretty sure we have at least 1 or 2 audio talks at the conference today. If audio is your thing, please make sure to go there or come visit us at the hands-on lab. 64-bit. I guess you like your bits. We have twice as much bits. Your pointers are twice as big, takes twice as much memory, but all that aside, this means that the Unity editor on Mac and Windows is now able to allocate much, much more memory, which is really good because your project folders that you're sending us, they get bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger over time. And we were getting to a point where it was really annoying that the 32-bit versions could actually sometimes run out of memory, and that is not how you want to spend your day. All right, physics. PhysX powers, like it's the physics engine inside Unity. It's made by NVIDIA, and in Unity 5 what we did is we upgraded to the latest version of NVIDIA's PhysX. We also improved a lot of things in the way we integrated it. We completely threw away the way we implemented cloth before, and we did it in a much faster, new way. There's new car physics, but probably most importantly, the new physics, we integrated it very tightly with Unity's job and multi-threading system, so the performance of your physics simulations, they will be much better because on multi-core devices, you'll be able to actually use all those cores to do your simulation. SpeedTree. So SpeedTree is an interesting company and product. It's a program that does one very specific thing, but does it really, really well. It lets you create trees and bushes and foliage, but they are the most beautiful trees you have ever seen. So Unity 5 is able to import SpeedTree files. So you can use SpeedTree to create all your trees, bushes, foliage, nature stuff for your game and import it into Unity. The other big thing that the SpeedTree guys will do is that they will seed the asset store with a whole big collection of all sorts of trees and stuff, so that even if modeling each specific branch of a certain tree is not really your thing, you can just grab one that you think looks pretty from the asset store and use that one. Asset bundles. The current API that Unity 4 provides for asset bundles is actually a very low-level one. We basically throw a large part of the problem over the fence to you guys. Like, you need to specify exactly which objects needs to go where. You need to figure out which asset bundles need to be rebuilt. You guys need to figure out which one you need to download when and make sure you instantiate them. And Unity 5 has a big step up for asset bundles in that we provide UI in the inspector for each asset. You can say, or each directory, you can say, well, I want everything in this directory. I want this to go into an asset bundle with this name. And I want this thing to go into an asset bundle with that name. And then the new API that we provide, instead of being this very low-level one, which will continue to exist, the high-level one actually only says, Unity, please build me my asset bundles. And then Unity will go figure out, which things should go into which bundles depend on each other, and also it will figure out which bundles actually don't need to be rebuilt at all because nothing in them changed, or nothing in them changed. So that's a big step up for asset bundles. We have some stuff on collaboration in that one of the things that we would really like to become better at is making it easier for teams to collaborate on scenes. Because scenes and prefabs are the two... Because scenes and prefabs are kind of the two hottest pain points for when you work on them with multiple people that you get into trouble. So there's a few small, there's not as shiny features as Joe gets to showcase, but there's a few tiny things that we did to make the workflow better. And one of them is that we changed the way we serialize prefabs. So, so in Unity 4, when you drag a prefab into your scene and you save the scene file, we actually store a complete duplicate of all this prefab data into the scene file. And this is very inconvenient because it means that if you open a scene that hasn't been opened in a while, and that scene actually includes a prefab that has been changed a few days ago, and you don't really do anything in the scene, but you save it anyway, now suddenly the scene changed. Like you'll see a modification in your version control. While you didn't actually, like for a human being, you didn't actually change anything. You opened it, you didn't do anything, and you hit save. So what we're doing with Unity 5 is we changed the way we serialize prefabs into scenes, and in Unity 5, the only thing that will be in the scene file is a reference to the prefab and a list of the actual modifications that need to be made. So this is one step that will make sure that when you work with multiple people on a scene file, that there are fewer cases where you get a conflict when there actually, for a human being, there actually wasn't a conflict. Another thing that we've been doing is trying to address the situation, what happens if you open a scene and you add a tree to the right, and I open a scene and I add a building to the left, and we both save and we both try to commit. When you try to deal with that with the text-based merge tool, the text-based merge tool has no idea how to resolve that, because both these things are at the bottom. It doesn't know, should I put the tree on the top and the building at the bottom, or the other way around. So it will have to ask you. So Unity 5 will ship with a small standalone tool, which is like a scene merger that you can use, that you can configure your version control system with. And what it does, it's a merge tool that has much more semantic understanding of what this scene file is. So this thing, it knows that a scene is a collection of game objects and that there's no inherent meaning in the order. So if one guy added one thing and another guy added one thing, it really doesn't matter if you put them in like this or if you put them in like that. And it doesn't matter, it doesn't make sense to bother the user about it. So this is another tool that we've made to further reduce the amount of times it will happen that you will have a merge conflict on a scene. And then if all is good, the only cases that actually remain if there is a real human semantic conflict. You guys move a tree to the right, I move it to the left, we both want to commit, someone needs to tell the system who gets the win. All right. So, unfortunately, this keynote doesn't, we don't have all day for it. There's many more features that I would like to talk about, but that we don't have time for right now. Almost all of them are being talked about in some of the different sessions that some of the Unity engineers are holding at this conference. But I couldn't help myself, and I just try to slam a bunch of them into some slides anyway. So I'm not going to say much about it, just going to have you read through it a little bit. And there it goes. Actually, it's actually a bit silly that I put all these mechanism things in like a small slide at the end, because like Unity 5 has an enormous functionality upgrade for mechanism with scriptable state machines and all this other stuff. There's talks about that as well. For here, there they go. The new thread profiler. I don't think Joachim showed that in his demo, did he? He was supposed to show that in the demo. I'll see if I can get to it. There you go. And there you go. So, of course, I guess for Unity 5, it's the same question, when can we have it? Can we have it? Can we have it? Not yet. So we've shipped an internal beta this week, and we expect to ship the first betas to pre-order customers somewhere between 4 and 8 weeks from now. Okay, so that's Unity 5. So one of the things that, when we talk to you guys, we've been hearing more and more is requests like, wow, couldn't you guys communicate more with us? Tell us more of what your plans are for the future, near future, long future. Why don't you do that? And I guess it's true that, in the last 2 years, we've been a little bit careful with talking too much about the things we have planned for the future, because it's so hard to predict the future. And plans change, and then we talk about our plans, and then they change, and then people get mad at us, and we don't like that. But when we talk to everyone, it's very clear that people prefer us to be more open about what we do, even if plans change, than to be a little cocon that doesn't speak much. So we decided that we are going to go along with that. So one of the things that you've already seen happening is that you've seen increased activity from the development team on our forum, on our blog posts about what we're planning to do with scripting in the future, with Ante CPP, what we're planning to do on all the different areas. And you'll also see some of this new intention for increased openness in this keynote, as I'm going to try to showcase a feature that has a very long horizon. It's way, way, way past 5.0. We have no idea when it's going to ship. We have no idea if it's going to ship. We have no idea what it's going to look like when it ships. And, and most scaringly, we actually have no idea if I will make it to the end of the demo without it crashing. Like, that open are we trying to be at this keynote. So with that said, we have a side bet with Joachim on whether or not I'm able to actually reach the end of the demo without crashing. Well, I guess we're all going to go on a journey here and find out. OK, so one of the problems that this project that we've been dubbing the Director Project is trying to solve is that it's so hard to do certain things with code. One of the things that you can do really well with code is say, like, OK, if someone clicks this, this should happen. If someone does this, this should happen, like very direct relationships. But one of the things that is much harder to describe with code is like things that need to happen over time. You know, I want my dragon to fly here, and when it's there, I want these explosions to come up, and only then the soundtrack should play, or maybe the soundtrack should be playing from the start, but after the explosion, I want a different audio mixer setting to kick in. And when the different audio mixer setting kicks in, then I want my image effect to kick in. So this kind of like time-based things is very hard to do in code, and this is a project where we're sort of like on an experimental journey trying to figure out how we can make this sort of thing easier in Unity. Here we go, wish me luck. Thank you. OK, so here is our scene. It has the Unity chan that we all love. And I'm going to make a new thing that we have here. It's called a sequence. I'm going to double-click that. I'm going to drag Unity chan in here, and then it never works because you need to do it again. And then it does. OK, so we have her in, and now I'm just going to drag an animation in here and move it to the beginning, maybe make it a little bit shorter, focus on it. And I'm going to scrub here to see if this works. What do you know? Without play mode, I can just scrub through an animation that has root motion like that. OK, let's check if that works in play mode too. Oh, kind of works. She just walks out of the screen. So let's see if we can also use this sequencer to also control the camera over time. So let me drag the camera in here. And this is, oh, look at that. You can reorder that. All right, so I'm going to make sure I have a keyframe here, and then we're going to scrub forward, and then I'm going to make sure that when she's here, I also have a keyframe here. So let me scrub, and what do you know? Like both the camera and Unity chan move at the same time. Let's try that in play mode. OK, very well. All right, so let's see if we... Let's see if we can add some audio to that. Stage crew, do I have audio on the computer right now? That would be nice. How do I could do it like this? Like that. OK, here we go. So let's try that. No audio? Oh, you know why? Because I didn't tell it to. So the audio needs to come from somewhere, and obviously it needs to come, or not obviously, I'm just going to have it come from the camera. Notice that if I drag this camera here on this channel, what actually happens is that on the camera, we're adding an audio player component, which is a new sort of like experimental component we're playing around with. And this thing actually references the sequence. And because the sequence currently only has one audio channel, we don't actually have to select which channel we want. If there would be multiple, we can actually select here. So let's see if there's some audio like this. OK, very well. I don't think that's really how that dance goes. Because I think the dance kind of goes like this. Let me add this other animation in here. And notice that, not only do I control the position of Unity Chan, but the sequencer actually controls the mechanism avatar and all the blending of that. So let me move this in. Let me get a little bit of a blend. I can already scrub here and check out your cool moves. Maybe I'll drag this other one in as well. And do a blend here as well. Let's see how that goes. Okay, fair enough. Fair enough, fair enough. Wow, this is going way better than I was hoping. Maybe I should just quit here. But let's go double or nothing. Here we go, video. So I have some videos here, and I'm just going to drag one in here. I'm going to put it to the beginning. So now my sequence has a video output channel. I just need to tell it to go somewhere. And since, I'm using this camera for everything anyway, I'm just going to tell it to go on the camera, which, on the camera actually causes a video player component to be created. I'm telling it to render on the camera backplane. I need to make sure I don't have a skybox. So let's see how that works. Oh, what do you know? It's so sad that the thing you applaud for most is the thing that you're not going to get for so long. Too bad, too bad. Okay, let's take a look at a few more things here. Let's try to create a compositor. What the hell is that? It's hard to explain in words. Let me try doing it like this. I have an output here, and on the output types, I'm going to say, well, this thing has an output channel that's a video playable. And I'm going to take a look at my videos again, and I'm actually going to put like a different video in here. You can see, oh, that's my light burst something, video something. I'm going to hook this guy up to the output. And then I'm going to go back to my sequence. And then I'm going to delete this boring movie. And then I'm going to actually throw my compositor in here. So not only can you, put like simple playables into the sequencer, you can also have much more complex things. Okay, we got the song. Okay, so now we have a different video. But let's go into this compositor and see what kind of things we can play around with here. Maybe we should also, put that other video back in and put it like here. And then maybe we want to have like a video mixer. Ooh. And now the toughest part comes, like dragging the correct. Pew. Pew. Oh yeah. And then this one is going to go in here. And then I'm going to set the weights of these guys to 0.5, 0.5. And then we're going to see how that goes. This is driving me nuts here. As you can see now, we actually have both these videos playing 50-50 blended. But maybe we want to do some more stuff. Let's go back to our compositor. And let's see if we can add like an operator here, my operators. And let's do a normalized mouse X. And let's move that into the weight. And maybe we want to do a my operators 1-. And then we move this here, and then we move this here. And now, if all goes well, this actually, when I move my mouse to the left, we're all on the bubbles. And when I move my mouse to the right, we're all on this channel. But what's also cool is that this list of operators, if you look at this, hello, this is just a simple C# script with a bunch of static methods. So you can take these, throw them in your compositor. All right, I'm gonna stop before I crash. So as I said before, this is, I do this mostly to sort of share our thoughts, what we're thinking, what we're experimenting with. You're all software developers like us. You know how it goes. You experiment a lot of stuff fails, and some stuff sticks. We'll have to see which stuff sticks. But at least, you can see a lot more of what we're working on and what our plans are. Okay, so that concludes my section of the keynote. And with that, I want to invite Todd on stage, who's going to be talking to us about some of the exciting things that are going around services.
Thanks, Lucas.
You're welcome.
Awesome.
There you go.
Wow. That was great. There's no dancing in my presentation, unfortunately. So I'm Todd. Sorry, I'll get to the right slide here. I wanted to tell you a little bit about what we're working on in the online services teams. So I want to start with an idea that a developer gave me last year, sort of like an inception. He implanted this idea in my mind. And the idea that he told me was that developing a game is sort of like climbing a mountain. You pour all of your technical talent and your creative passion into developing this game. You ascend the peak of that first mountain, and you find out there's another bigger mountain beyond it. And it's a challenge for developers and for Unity and for the industry, because unfortunately what happens with a lot of our developers is they end up somewhere down in that valley. They never quite make it over that second mountain. And that mountain, the first mountain, is the mountain we all know and love and sometimes hate, and that is creating a game. And the second mountain is connecting with an audience. So I want to talk a little bit about what we're doing in our online services teams to help you create the game and also to connect with the audience. Let's start with creating the game, the space that we know so well. Lucas talked about a few things, obviously a lot of great stuff coming in Unity 5, some things around collaboration. There's one particular part I wanted to sort of drill into, and that's what happens when you hit the build button. When you hit the build button in Unity, it should just be a magical process and your executable spits out the other end. But what actually a lot of engineers find is they join this industry to create games and they end up being build engineers. Who joined the industry to create games? Who joined the industry to be a build engineer? There's probably one or two you mascus out there, but most of us did not join to be build engineers. So, we looked at that problem, and it's sort of a pain in the ass. So if you go and look at the web developers and look at how they handle build engineering, most of them have moved to a model called continuous integration. And continuous integration is the idea that every time you commit code, a build is kicked off and some tests are run. And it's not super popular in the gaming industry. How many people doing continuous integration? Okay, so maybe 10, 20% of you. So for you, 10 or 20%, I've got great news. For the rest of us, I've got even better news. So let's segue from the mountains. Let's go somewhere a lot warmer. Austin is the capital of the great state of Texas. And there's some awesome game companies down there in Austin, as you guys, I'm sure you know. So there's a group of guys down there that worked at some of these big companies, and a few years ago, they started making mobile games with Unity, and they saw all these challenges with continuous integration services and decided to build a continuous integration service for Unity. We saw that, we were very excited, and we thought, how can we bring that to Unity developers? So that company is called Sugi, and they'd worked at some of these studios. Obviously, everyone here will be familiar with Gearbox and some of the other studios that they had come from. So I'm very pleased to announce that recently we acquired Sugi, and Sugi is now Unity Austin. Please welcome them to the Unity family. This is our first development center in the Austin area. We're hiring. Please check out the careers page if you're a Texan. And I'd like to tell you a little bit about the product that the team is building. So the product is called Unity Cloud Build. It's a continuous integration service for Unity developers. We're announcing an open beta today. I could tell you all about the features. What I thought I would do is ask one of my favorite Seattle studios, Camouflage, who have a great Kickstarter game called Republic. I'm sure you're all familiar with it. All right, thank you, Camouflage. So the guys at Camouflage were very, very gracious in being guinea pigs for Unity Cloud Build, and they made a little video for us. So let's roll the Camouflage video and check that out.
So this is our game, Republic. It's an episodic, stealth adventure game that from day one has just been about quality. Full voiceovers with Jennifer Hale, David Hayter, Dwight Schultz. We're doing all of our cinematics fully motion captured, 3D facial performance. I mean, we're just going all in. And so it's been awesome to see that millions of people have downloaded our game. We've won awards. I mean, it's just so surreal. And so for us, as a small, scrappy little studio here in Seattle, it's been all about choosing the right technology.
Camouflage is a dump. The roof leaks, the air is moldy, we're packed in there like sardines. When my roommate came to test for us, the doorknob came off in his hands.
Camouflage is the definition of a studio with humble beginnings. We're independently funded, Kickstarter backed, and we're a small team. We're working on our first project, and so it's really crucial for us to use the technology that's at our fingertips.
Mechanim, occlusion culling, the asset store, multi-platform support, these are all Unity tools that our team depends on. So you can imagine our excitement when Todd and the Unity team came by our studio and asked if we wanted to beta test Unity Cloud Build.
I was spending several hours per day creating builds on our build machine. I would have to switch platforms, wait for Unity to spit out a build, and really that was distracting for our team. We just want to spend time implementing these important features.
Unity Cloud Build is all about efficiency. It allows us to automatically upload builds to the cloud, have them be tested, and then share them out with our external partners.
So we've had a lot of success on iOS, but the next step for Republic is to embrace all those platforms that Unity supports. What that means is spending literally all day making builds for PC, Mac, iOS, Android, and maybe even consoles down the road. And this is why we were totally embracing Unity Cloud Build technology.
When I don't have to spend all of my time making builds, I get to work on improving code, I get to implement new features, and I get to do things that I love doing.
We work with a lot of external studios and testers, so now sharing out the build is much easier.
There's a lot of things going on at Camouflage right now, a lot of exciting things on the horizon.
We've got episode 3, we're almost ready for Steam, we're upgrading to Unity 5.
So it's critical that we're freeing up build machines and getting 20 builds a day instead of just 3 or 4.
So this takes me back to why I'm so happy that we rolled the dice with Unity way back in 2011. We've been riding the wave of their success, but they've also created these conditions for us to be successful. I really look forward to every single new product that they announce because ultimately, as a developer, it helps us and it helps our consumers because we can just make a better game.
Awesome. Thank you to the Camouflage team. I think John really captured exactly what we're doing with Unity Cloud Build, and that is we want to help you focus on the reason that you started developing games in the first place and get back to the passion of creating games and not get wrapped up in the minutiae of build engineering. So how does it work? It's pretty simple. You have a source control repository. We support Git, Subversion, and Perforce today. I will be adding more in the future. We have an agent that detects commits to that source control repository. When we see a commit, we kick off a build with a virtual machine in the cloud. That happens automatically. When it's ready, we email you the details of the build. If there's any errors, we send you a log, and we send you links. You can install directly from those links or send those links straight to your testers. At any time, you can go back to the cloud and look at the dashboard, see what's happening with the build. If you're doing iOS builds, you can install the build directly from the web page. That's a huge time saver for anyone that's doing iOS. You don't have to send it to have a special provisioning process there. Thank you. So from your perspective of your workflow every day, it doesn't really change. You write code, you commit that code. Magic happens, a build happens, you get an email, you decide if you like the build, you can send it to people to have a look at. Can you use Unity Cloud Build? I'm sure you're all asking that question. Absolutely. This URL is now live. The beta is open and available. You'll need to bring your own Unity Pro license. We support iOS, Android, and web player platforms today. We'll be adding more platforms in the future. It'll be free during the beta. We'll be announcing a subscription pricing model for it at a later time. However, we've committed that there will always be a free tier for Unity developers. So there's a cloud build session today at 1 o'clock in the Northcliffe room. The team from Austin will be there to answer your questions and give a live demo. They also have a pod outside giving demos, so please give us your feedback. We'd love to get you on board and get your feedback on that. I think they have another session at 3:30 Friday as well if you can't catch the one today. So that's cloud build. Let's go back to our mountains and let's talk about the second mountain. And if we want to connect with an audience, one of the most important things is understanding who our audience is. So we did a survey last year where we went out and asked all of our Unity developers, what analytics packages are you using to understand who your audience is? And the results are actually pretty alarming. The #1 analytics package, there's no analytics. A big chunk of you guys aren't using analytics. And so we thought we need to solve that problem. And we thought we need a team to solve the problem. We need a team with analytics skills, with some big data skills, and with skills in understanding player behavior. So we looked around for a team, and we found one in San Francisco. Recently, you saw we acquired the Playnomics team, so please welcome Playnomics to the family. The team had been working for 4 years on a great analytics service, hundreds of millions of end users on the service, and they are working now hard to bring that to Unity developers. In the spirit of showing a sneak peek of a product that we have not yet announced, but we are working on, as Lucas alluded to earlier, I'd like to show you just a couple of things about that and then invite your input as we continue to develop this part of the Unity. So we think bringing a basic Unity analytics dashboard to everyone that's easy to understand is a critical part of our mission, because I don't have a statistics degree. I'm sure most of you don't either. So we want to give you an insight into what is happening with my game, how many people are playing it, how much revenue am I making. And this has to happen automatically. This has to happen the minute you hit build without you having to go and integrate any services or look up any codes or anything like that. Next year when we run the survey, I want nobody to have the answer that I'm not using analytics. Once we've given you the basic set of information, you can see here some ideas of what that could look like. I think we want to go beyond that and say, how can we go beyond just pretty charts? Charts are really interesting as an intellectual interest, what's happening with my game. But what about if we can get proactive? So here's an example. In Brazil last month, my Android revenue went down nearly 40%. And I really want to understand why that happened and do something about it. Can I get proactive about that? So it turns out there was a football game in Brazil, and I think a lot of people probably got distracted, right? Maybe they weren't playing games on their phones. Now, if we're looking at that here in August, it's sort of academic interest. But what about if we could give you that alert close to real time so you could do something about it? Maybe you could create a football-themed promotion and send that to your players in Brazil, and that would help players get back in the game, help keep your game on track, keep the game successful. So these are the sorts of ideas that the analytics team is working on. The analytics team has a session, 10 a.m. Friday. I would encourage you to come along. They also have a demo pod outside. We want to get your input. If analytics is a passion of yours or an area that you want to learn more about, the team in San Francisco is very excited to do more with you. So we have teams now in Austin, San Francisco, and Seattle working on more cloud services for you. Along the theme of the mountains and connecting with more people, Jussi is now going to come and talk about Everyplay and Unity Ads. There you go, man.
Thanks, Todd. That was fantastic. Hello, everyone. My name is Jussi Laakkonen, and I recently had the incredible privilege joining the Unity family as my company, Amplifier, was acquired. And it was really because I think the Unity mission has expanded to connect with an audience. We talked a little bit about that, but I wanted to ask you, how many of you are doing self-publishing? Can you raise your hands? How many have done some digital distribution? How many of you now, if you think back 10 years when I was making PS2 games, finally have a connection directly to a player? Do they tweet you? Do they talk to you on Facebook? This has changed completely in the industry in the past 10 years. When I shipped a Gold Master of a racing game for a PS2, we would maybe hear a couple of letters after post-launch coming by physical mail asking for an improvement in our next release. And what could we do about that? Pretty much nothing, because the game already shipped. We couldn't fix any bugs. The life has really changed. We are in constant connection with our players. And that has really become something that we at Unity want to extend and embrace and help you create that loyalty in your fans and your players. So that's why we are here today. Because the #1 challenge after making the game, which I believe Unity being fairly successful in helping you with, is finding players. In the digital distribution age, where you're self-publishing and you're connecting with people, it is really a life and death question for a small studio and big studio alike, that can they connect with an audience and can they be found? But I think the question of can I find players is slightly incorrectly phrased. It is really, can players find your game? Because the player is the active participant. He makes the decision whether to play, whether to buy, whether to download. So when we think about marketing and advertising ruling the world, we should really more think about our players and what do they think about discovery and how do they find games. And on mobile especially, we wanted to really understand how this works. So we did a survey of 3,000 mobile gamers in North America in February. And we asked them, what is your most favorite way of discovering new games? And they discovering your most favorite games. And that's what they told us. Social, over 90% says social is their #1 way. That is, a friend tells me, a friend shows me. And a lot of this happens offline, actually meeting people and showing a game. Of course, we know how important app stores are. Feature placement, the charts, the user reviews are all important. But what was really interesting to find is that video in its various forms, whether it be YouTube or on Twitter or even a video advertising, is the third source on discovery. But we also wanted to understand, because this is an average, what do people do who actually pay for games? And so we segmented this, and what we found is the same 2 top sources matter for people who spend at least $10 per month on mobile gaming, but video completely over-indexes, getting to almost 75% of people saying that video is the way they find their most favorite games. What's interesting about these 3 sources are really the thing that these are the things you need to think about, because that's where your players are, your future players. But you can really affect only 2 of these, because fundamentally the App Store is out of your control. We all hope that Apple features us or we get a hero spot from Google, but we cannot really control that. But what we can affect is social and video. Can we get people to talk about our game, to share with their friends, and to see us, our game, in all its excitement on the web? And this is why we created Everyplay, to put social and video together to get the most incredible moments out of your game and in front of people. So let's look at what people have done in Everyplay, the type of videos they've shared.
What is up, Everyplay? It is me, Titan Unlimited here, and I want to let you know that I want to play your geometry dash levels.
A small sampling of what people are doing on Everyplay, but the important thing is you make it, they play it, and they want to tell their friends. So it's really about that moment where you're like, oh my God, how did that happen? And then you're like, oh, I want to share it, I want to show it. And Everyplay lets that happen. Let's get those awesome moments that you crafted with love and attention for your players and get those in front of people. And we believe that type of discovery is the most authentic type of discovery there is. And we're super happy to announce today that there are over 700 games integrated with Everyplay live on the various app stores, ranging from Unity games to Cocos and even Unreal Engine, because Everyplay actually supports all engines there are on iOS and Android. There are already over 6 million replays shared explicitly by players. These are actions they've taken to push out to the world the things they've created, the things they've enjoyed in your games. And there are over 15 million registered users on Everyplay. This is an audience that's growing rapidly because they're doing things they enjoy, sharing and expressing themselves. One of these games that has been using Everyplay pretty innovatively is called Supernauts. It's made by a team called Grand Crew out of Finland. And you could think it's like Minecraft with mobile first. One of the things they've done is a weekly contest, because in this world where you can craft all the types of creations, they want to get the creativity out into the open and let all of the players of the game see what's going on. So the developers have been holding a weekly contest, and here's actually one of the winners. So this is reenacting the poster from Finding Nemo inside the Supernauts. But now you can really see what people can do and see all the creativity people can do in the Supernauts. So when I think about these people, who do these things, who share and want to connect with you and the other players, I think the right word for them is true fans. They're people who really, really love your game and are really into that. So in the same survey of 3,000 people, we tried to identify what do these people do and what do they really matter to you, both as a business, but also as an engaged audience. We found that true fans are really people who spend a lot of time playing mobile games. They spend at least 10 hours per week. So they're very much into gaming as a hobby. They're not that casual. And what's interesting, they also spend at least $10 per month. So it's clearly a pattern that they play more, they pay more, and they're super interested in social features. They're 3 times more likely to share. They're 3 times more likely to want to connect to other people in features like chat or forums or other social features. So we wanted to think about how we could take Everyplay further from being a channel to push things out to also build stronger connections inside your game. With that, I'm really happy to announce our new community features, which are all designed to connect you and your players together. So here's a sample of what you could do with the new community features. This is from Angry Birds, and we're basically simulating a scenario where the player is getting a little frustrated because he cannot take out the big robot. This could be a shelf moment in your game. Like, if you cannot get through that, maybe you'll throw the game away and install something else. But what we want to create in Everyplay is an ability to get help and connect with other people. So you can share your replay from this frustrating moment on Everyplay to see if anybody else has tips for you. And what we're now opening up is the brand new social interface in Everyplay launching in October. This is your social hub for your game. The feed is completely controlled by you. You can showcase great players, great content, new features, ask for suggestions from players. But for players, they also have a forum where they can discuss. So we're launching discussions. And these discussions obviously have text. So you can post and ask for help, like in this scenario. But you can also include content, such as replays. So you can include any replay you've uploaded or you've watched. So now what we're trying to do is that we're taking all that content that people are creating and letting them really engage each other with that by, for example, sending a video reply. So in this case, the player is asking for help. And while we're waiting for somebody to answer that call for help, let's look at the front page a little bit more. So this is a social feed for your game. You can create it. You can showcase things that people do, things that your community manager wants to put in front of them. It's like kind of a mini Facebook built inside of your game, and it's designed to help you to connect with an audience. Well, here we have actually a response. It's from somebody I happen to know. I looked in the mirror in the morning. So I wanted to help him out, so I posted a reply on how you do it.
Let's go lure him in. There he's coming. Oh, there he is. So with this guy, just going to keep you a distance. Don't let him push you in the corner. Keep on firing, don't panic. There. So just keep your distance and keep on firing, and you'll be...
The AI is a little too easy for me, I guess. But what you can think about this being a similar scenario, but for your game, imagine PvP strategies being wrapped around for a clan. Imagine asking for a tactic to be the boss. Maybe you can avoid those self moments, and you can increase loyalty, because the people who are really engaged your game, they want to connect with other players because they share a hobby. They share the love of your game. The important thing is that your game looks like your game, even when you're in the community. So here's a sneak peek of the community completely themed for Dead Trigger 2. So it will look and feel exactly like your game, and you're completely in control what happens here. Apart from the fact, obviously, you're connecting with real people, so there will be surprises from them. So you can learn more about Friday at 10:30 a.m. at the Allen Foundation room, and you can come and talk with us and get more answers at the demo pods just out of the keynote. So that's for Everyplay now, but let's talk about other people. Oh, sorry, forgot about this. So the community, the cool thing about this is a completely server-side update. No coding required. We're going to roll it out in October. All you need to do is start engaging with your fans. And Everyplay is available completely for free at the store right now. So that's about Everyplay and about really kind of connecting with especially your biggest fans. But I think it's important to note that we have a lot of casual players on mobile. People who also matter because they're a vast majority. They're looking for light entertainment, maybe a little bit of distraction. And they matter for a very good reason, because they don't pay. This is a sad truth of the mobile industry, that the industry doesn't really work that well with paid content, and we have a lot of free players. And of course, we know what we do with that. We have to find a way to monetize, to keep on business and build the next game. But the problem is that most times when we slap mobile ads in our games, the end user experience is pretty far from being awesome. It's like going to the internet in 1995, where you get pop-up banners on top of your face all the time, and you're swiping them away like flies, and you're hoping, like, can I finally play this game? But I think there is a solution to this. I think there is actually a case in which you can build ads that users actually like. And here's a live example of something built to be as native, as opt-in, and as engaging as you can pretty much do. So take a look at Sonic Dash from our friends at Sega. So as you know, Sonic is a pretty fast guy. This is an endless runner. And as you're going through the level, if you start hitting obstacles, you lose health and you eventually die, like this. What Sega did, they integrated video advertising here as an opt-in way for earning a free revive, a new live. Obviously, it's an ad. It's still engaging, still a little like in your face, but it's a completely opt-in, rewards-driven, engaging experience, which only takes about 15 seconds of your time, and you're back in the game. So when we compare this with something that just pops up or annoys you, doesn't go away, I think it's an important thing to think about the user by giving him a choice of deciding whether to do something or not. There are multiple ways of integrating rewards-based advertising, but video is right now the #1 way to go. And it's not really because we just want to give the choice to the player. We also want this to be a good business for you. And we've been working with Sega for over a year. And they have a large team working on advertising, a lot of experience in working on a lot of different ad networks. And even with that, what they say is Unity Ads is consistently among the very, very best that they work with. Now, why does this matter? Fundamentally, we want to be the game engine that makes you money instead of the game engine that takes a percentage of your money. And with that, I'm super happy to announce that this year, Unity Ads will be paying out a lot more than just this. We're paying out over $20 million to developers using Unity Ads. And we want to work with you, all of you, to help you sustain your business and grow it, and make the number 100 million next year. Because together, we can help you grow your business and help you make that next game to be even better. Now, last year here, I wasn't yet on the stage, and we talked about cross-promotion, and I'm happy to say it's pretty much live now. We have still some few kinks to work out, but we're announcing the beta today, and you can get going with cross-promotion. Now, you're all probably on mobile, you're familiar with cross-promotion, but the one thing we're adding to the mix that's not, to my knowledge, available for anybody else is free video advertising in cross-promotion. So we talked about how important video is. What we want to do is lower the barrier and let you run video advertising for free in your own games or across your friends' games. So you can cross-promote for free with video for the first time. Also, you'll be able to use picture interstitials, because in certain cases, pictures are better. And what this really means is that you can use Unity Ads as a free tool to promote your games. You can partner with your friends in the developer community, for example, locally here in Seattle, to do a swap campaign. But we really think a little bigger than that. If you think about what David talked about, the asset store unlocking this incredible amount of value in the ecosystem and helping you make your games, we think that by working together in this incredible Unity community, coming together, we can do the same for growing your games. If we can rally together and create this cross-promotion running together in the Unity ecosystem, I think we can all be more successful. And that's fundamentally why we think it's a strong connection across all the games in the Unity ecosystem. So let's take a quick look at what this looks like. In this scenario, I have already a game, which in our case is our demo game called Space Ads, and I'm launching a new title called Archangel. When I'm launching my new game, I want to obviously be able to get people to play it, so I want to showcase it, the new game, in my old game. So what we're doing is creating a house ad campaign for that. So we're going to paste in the URL to iTunes. Unity Ads is going to look this up, and we're going to save this. And this is what it takes to create a game in Unity Ads. It takes about 30 seconds. The next thing to do is to create a campaign for this game. So we're going to create an ad campaign, which is basically just defining where the ads should appear. We're going to make it a house ad campaign, so it's an ad that shows in my other game. So we are calling it a house ad. We are going to make it a picture interstitial in this case. We're going to let it run for a week. And we're going to be targeting the one game I already have in one specific ad spot. Each game can have any number of ad spots, so you can target your ad wherever you want it to appear in your game. All right, the next thing we need is we need some assets. We need the artwork. So we're going to drag and drop a landscape artwork, as well as a portrait artwork, so that we can show the ad in both orientations. And once we've done that, Unity Ads is actually going to optimize this for different resolutions or different devices on the background. So it takes a little bit of time to bake it, about, I think, 5 seconds. And once it's baked, all we need to do is to set the campaign on. There, now it's been baked, and we have the different resolutions ready. And that's really it. Turn it on, and you're running. Now let's look at how this appears in the game. So we have our old game called Space Ads, which is where we place the ad into. And we have a specific placement at the boot up, which is a really great place to show something new. So we targeted that boot up ads placement with these creatives we just put in there. And that's it. Now the ad's running, and if you tap on that, you get to the App Store and you can download the game. So our goal is really to provide tools that help you connect with an audience, help you engage them, help you keep them loyal and playing your games. With that, I want to invite you to join us Friday morning to learn more about Unity Ads and different tips and tricks on how to optimize ad revenue and how to use cross-promotion. Or you can visit us outside at the demo pods. Unity Ads cross-promotion is in beta now, and you can sign up at this URL. And you can get the Unity Ads for monetization and user acquisition right now from the Asset Store. With that, I think it's time to get Davíð back on the stage.
Thanks, man. Wow. The Unity engine, the cloud services, Everyplay, the ads, and a few other bits and pieces. The teams that are working on this are so cool. Well, I'm their biggest fan. And dive into these things. I'm sure half of you have downloaded the 4.6 beta already. Check out Everyplay. It's really easy to integrate, and it's such a joy. You know, besides all the engagement you get out of it, just seeing people play your games, getting like hundreds and thousands or tens of thousands of videos that people rate where they're playing your games. That is amazing. So as we've been talking about, you know, we're really, really trying our best to fulfill all your needs, or at least those of them we think we can help with, helping you create your games, helping you connect with audiences, and we hope that you will let us do that for you for a very long time. We're almost at the end of the keynote. It's been the longest keynote ever. We had a lot of content. We'll let you get to the conference in a second. But I just want to kind of remind you that, you know, the 1,500 people that are here, I mean, you guys are some of the most talented, some of the most creative, some of the most technically brilliant people. And use the 3 days, not just to learn about Unity, but to connect with them, make new friends, find new collaborators. Because the really dense network of connections that comes out of Unite is really what, you know, the future of the industry is built on. I know that's a big statement, but it's actually true. We see so many things that come out of Unite year after year, new teams, new companies, new asset store packages, and so on. So I really, really hope you will enjoy this. Before we're done, I want to take Carl, our lead evangelist, who travels tirelessly around the world teaching Unity. I think probably all of you have met him at some point somewhere in the world. He has 3.5 million air miles, and he's going to tell us a few details about the conference. So welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much. There's no greater place than to be here with you. Thank you so much. Thanks to you, unite us every year bigger and bigger and bigger. This is so awesome. Thank you. Applause for you. It's amazing. So I'm going to give a quick overview of the event so you can get the most out of it. But before I continue, on the end of the event, at the end of this talk, I will give you something special. I have to remember to tell it on the end, okay? But before I continue, I want to tell you also I'm super excited. This keynote was amazing, amazing. I've been making my own game, actually, okay? And I can't wait to go right after this keynote to go download Unity 4.6 and integrate my own GUI without any programming skills. Another thing is that I actually used Everyplay already. I used it last week. I'm actually a copy-paste coder. Yeah. And I could, in a few minutes, integrate actually Everyplay. Super simple. I also used Unity Cloud. And I have a really hidden feature that I found amazing. As I spent my life in airplanes, I could preserve my battery power in the airplane, thanks to building to the internet of the airplane to the cloud. That's an amazing feature. I also want to thank the devs and you for providing a great feedback to create an awesome platform. Okay? The last thing I have to do now is go to the asset store, buy some art content, and my game will be ready. But also thanks to you, this is actually my 14th Unite. Thank you. There's no greater pleasure seen than familiar faces, new faces, of the people who actually made the games that I play in my free time and mainly during my work hours. Thank you for supporting my habit. So I'm going to give a quick overview for the people who make 3D games. We actually made a 3D blueprint of the locations where you can find the lectures. Super easy. For the people who make 2D games, so there's a lot of people looking online. We have a huge online community. What you see here and learn, share by using the hashtag Unity 14th. If you want to see some of the most amazing games, outstanding work, groundbreaking games, come Thursday evening, at 8 p.m. to our awards. Okay? And right after that, the awesome Unity party. As I just turned 21, I was reminded I have to bring my ID. Okay. When you go outside here, you will find some booths. Those are the Unity booths. It's really great. You can meet with our asset store team, the architectural team, the cloud team. So feel free to go ask questions. If you want to get really down to the code and have really deep questions, go downstairs. The hands-on lab is there. Our devs are there to help you. Actually, personally, I'm going too. And also, when you walk outside, downstairs, you will find our partners. A big thank you to our partners for really supporting this amazing community. If you have questions, they're there to help. If you want to get on their platforms, or have questions about monetization or how to get on their, use their software, they are downstairs. They have a lot of booths there. If you get hungry, right after this event, when you walk outside, visit the partner booths, and across the building here, the building across, we have the meal hall. I said sometimes the meat hall, but I mean the meal hall. Okay. It's 2 hours long. You don't have to rush. We'll be serving the lunch. One thing I have to remind you is actually that it's fully sold out. Right? So you will have to share tables. But the benefit of that is you will be sitting next to people you might not know. So you can start a new game to make and monetize, and then next year give a keynote about that. Also, thank you for the people who bought the early bird special. You have already a T-shirt, the Unite T-shirt. For the people who don't have it yet, and in your badge is a ticket, and you get that amazing T-shirt. This t-shirt is more exclusive than a Unity license, actually. And don't forget to pick up your Android TV dev kit. It's actually downstairs by the registration. There's a kit for everybody, so you don't have to rush. You can go this afternoon, tomorrow the full day, and then a Friday in the morning. So there's no rush. But no, the last thing I want to mention. Right after this event, when you walk outside, Davíð Helgason will be waiting there for you. He's been challenged. He's been challenged by Launchen from China, the CEO, one of the best game studios, Unity game studios in China. He's been challenged for the ALS Ice Water Bucket Challenge. Thank you so much, and I see you outside. And let's enjoy Davíð getting wet. Thank you.